Hey folks, welcome back to the Weekly Spark, where each week I find something from the worlds of Kindle, e-ink, iPad and related tech that interests me, and I share my thoughts on it. And then towards the end I'll wrap up with a couple of shorter stories that have caught my eye. Anyway, let's get started, because today's talking point gets right to the heart of what it means to buy into a digital ecosystem and whether anything in tech is ever truly yours. Amazon has just reminded Kindle owners of a rather uncomfortable truth about modern tech. You don't fully own a device just because it still turns on. If you've got a Kindle or a Kindle Fire from 2012 or earlier, Amazon says that from the 20th of May 2026, that device won't be able to buy new books from the Kindle store or download books you previously bought. You'll still be able to read what's already on it, so it's not dead overnight, but if you deregister it or factory reset it after that date, well, you won't be able to register it again. And that part in particular has got a fair few people on the internet up in arms. Let's try our best to be fair to Amazon before we get carried away. These devices have been supported for somewhere between 14 to 18 years depending on the model, and the technology has most certainly moved on. 14 years is a very long time in consumer tech. A phone from 2012 is ancient. A tablet from 2012 is, well, in most cases, best remembered fondly rather than used. Apple, for example, doesn't generally support devices that long in software terms, and Google's newer Pixels top out at 7 years support. So yes, something from 2012 is old in tech years. The problem isn't that that support has ended, it's how Amazon have ended it. Now, there's a lazy version of this argument, which is to shout that Amazon's evil, demand everyone not to buy their stuff and move on. However, I don't think that's good enough, though I'm in no way suggesting corporate Amazon has any kind of moral backbone unless it helps the company make more gajillions while paying less tax. See, here's the truth. Companies do eventually have to stop supporting older hardware. Security changes, online service change, payment systems change, authentication changes. At some point, keeping ancient devices connected to a modern storefront becomes more trouble than it's worth, and possibly more risky than it's worth as well for both the consumer and the company. But here's the thing. Kindles aren't phones or overly complicated tablets. A 2012 Kindle can still do the one job it was made to do, well, extremely well. It still displays text quite well, it sips battery ever so gently, if at all, and any distractions move well out of the way. And that's why so many people still use older Kindles. Not because they're too stingy to upgrade, but because they simply haven't needed to. A good e-ink reader ages very differently from most other bits of tech. In some ways, that's the whole point of e-ink in the first place. So, even when Amazon says we're ending support, most people can live with that in theory, but this isn't that. This isn't just no more updates. It isn't even just the on-device shop is going away. The real sting is that if you reset the device after the cutoff, you can't set it up again. That means no fresh registration, no clean start, no normal second-hand handover, no easy gifting it to somebody else, no factory reset before sale, no tidy reboot if something goes wrong. This isn't just the end of support, that's the shrinking of ownership. Because Most people can accept the idea that an older device won't get new features. Most people can even accept that at some point the built-in App Store, or in this case the storefront, might stop working. But the moment you take a perfectly functional bit of hardware and make a normal ownership action like resetting it effectively terminal, people quite rightly start asking, what exactly have they paid for? And this is why some people are calling it soft bricking. And I get why they're saying that. The device still works. It can still read the books already on it. So it isn't bricked in a usual sense, but it's clearly been pushed into a much narrower, more fragile state. And in essence, it becomes a frozen device. Use it carefully. Don't touch too much, and definitely don't reset it or deregister it. Don't expect to pass it on cleanly, and don't expect the sort of freedom you might normally assume comes with owning a physical object. And that's where this stops being a technical story and ultimately becomes a trust story. The Kindle as a device has always traded on convenience and reliability. You buy the device, you buy the books, and that's another story, and the whole thing is supposed to just work. Simple, friction-free, quietly dependable. Unlike other more than capable e-readers, the ecosystem that Amazon has created means you find a book and you can read that book within seconds. Exactly what the average person wants the experience to be. No file transfer or sideloading required. With the decision Amazon has made here, it reminds people, especially the less techie person, that what they've really bought into isn't actually a device, but in reality, a managed service. Now, reminding me of what I said earlier, you might say, Mark, come on, 14 to 18 years is an incredible run. At some point, you've just got to let go. And yes, obviously that's true. I agree with it. Up to a point. If Amazon has said from the 20th of May the Kindle store will no longer work on these devices, but you'll still be able to register them, sideload books and keep using them as basic e-readers, I think most people would grumble but accept it and learn what needs to be done to keep it going if they didn't know already. That would feel like a company drawing a line while still respecting the fact that the customer owns the hardware. But the re-registration lockout is different. That feels unnecessary, or at the very least it feels more aggressive than it needs to be. It takes what could have been a manageable end-of-life policy and turns it into a warning label. Don't reset your device after this date. And that isn't a good look. And it's especially not a good look at a time when companies are under more pressure than ever to reduce waste and help products last longer. Because let's be honest, quite a few of these older Kindles are probably still absolutely fine. There'll be people using them quite happily. There'll be people who'd gladly buy one second hand for cheap. There'll be people who'd hand one to a parent or a child and keep it going for a few more years. This policy makes all of that harder. And for what? That's the question. If the answer is security, then say so clearly and explain why re-registration itself is such a problem. If the answer is simply that Amazon no longer wants to maintain the infrastructure around these devices, then at least be honest about that too. But don't wrap the whole thing up in vague language about support ending when the practical effect is more severe than that sounds. And by the way, I don't think this is some giant financial play for Amazon. They're not going to move the financial needle in any meaningful way just because a few people upgrade their Kindles. Amazon's far too big for that, and the reality is that the amount of these older devices still being used is probably small, although the minority voice is reasonably loud. This whole issue isn't an investor story. It's a customer goodwill story. It's a digital ownership story. It's a what do we actually mean by support story. And I think companies need to be challenged on that, because I reckon there's a better way to do this. If Amazon wants to retire storefront access on older devices, fine. If it wants to stop promising ongoing support, also fine. But it really should allow these devices to be re-registered in some kind of a limited reading only mode. No store, no cloud extras, no promises. Just enough to let the device remain a device rather than a museum piece that must never be touched. That would be a much fairer compromise in my opinion. See, my view is this. Amazon isn't wrong to end support eventually, and 14 to 18 years is objectively a long lifespan. But the real problem isn't the end of the support itself, it's the way they've chosen to do it. The reset and re-registration lockout crosses a line from understandable maintenance into something that feels needlessly hostile to the customer. If you've got one of these older Kindles, the practical advice is very simple. Don't factory reset it after the 20th of May 2026 and don't deregister it unless you're absolutely sure what you're doing. Keep it registered, download all the books you've bought and don't ever remove them from the device, and treat it like a device that Amazon has decided to put into storage while it's still sitting in your hand. If you own an older Kindle that will be affected by this, are you angry about it, or are you using this as an excuse to upgrade? And more broadly, when a company says end of support, what do you think that should actually mean? Okay, now on to a couple of news items. And the first of those is that the Kindle Scribe Colorsoft is now available to purchase in the UK. Yay! This is Amazon's new colour version of the Kindle Scribe, a reasonably featured digital notebook that comes with AI tools, support for popular cloud services, and the ability to write directly onto books and documents. This isn't just a large e-reader, it's a Kindle built for annotating what you're reading. Only now you can do all of that in colour. Amazon also says that the Scribe Colorsoft is thinner, lighter and faster than before. So this isn't just the old Scribe with colour bolted on. Over on my other channel, The Spark, I've just recently released a first impressions video on it. So if you want a closer look at that device, the colour and my early thoughts, please do go and check that out. I'll leave a link in the description and post it as the end card in this video. Now, a strange little quirk about this is that looking at a lot of the comments on that video, quite a few people who've ordered it, myself included, received a notification saying they wouldn't get it until December 2037. Now, for most people, I think this was just a computer glitch, as I got mine the next day. But some are apparently still waiting. So if you've ordered one, a call or message to Amazon customer service might be needed. And the second short story is one to treat a bit carefully, because at this stage it's rumour rather than confirmed news. There are reports doing the rounds that Apple may be running low on the A18 Pro Chips used in the MacBook Neo. Apparently because the thing has sold far better than expected. The claim is that Apple used binned A18 Pro chips in the Neo to keep costs down, and the supply of those chips may now be getting tight. Now there's at least some smoke here, because delivery times have slipped to around 2 to 3 weeks in Apple's online store, and Tim Cook has already said that this particular MacBook had its best launch week ever for first-time Mac customers. So whether it turns out to be true or not, it does suggest the MacBook Neo may be selling rather better than many expected. That's all, folks. If you've spotted any Kindle, e-ink, iPad or related tech stories you think are worth sharing, please do let me know in the comments. And as always, a like would be lovely. Subscribing means you won't miss the next episode, and tapping that hype button might one day get me into the top 100. And if you'd like to support the channel a little further, you can buy me a digital coffee using the QR code that's been on the screen throughout this video, or use the link in the description. And just a reminder that that Kindle Scribe Colorsoft video can be found here. Thanks for watching or listening. I'm Mark from the Weekly Spark, and I'll see you in the next one.